Dick Goodman here. I live out in the beautiful Salome, the Arizona desert, Salome, Arizona. And that's where you see me talking to you. And it's been a long road that got us here. It started way back when in Chicago after getting out of the Air Force. Had engineering background from training and worked a little bit in engineering and did my Air Force tour. And when I was in my early 20s, the Air Force was over with and I got a job and worked for Shell Oil for a few years and ended up in Chicago in '64. I'd been with them for 5 years, and my wife and I got roped into the Cook County Republican organization, and they were looking for bodies to help, and we were sort of interested, so we got involved in the '64 election when Goldwater ran against Lyndon Johnson. Woke up the morning after the election absolutely flabbergasted that our country would turn down a patriot and a clear thinker like Barry Goldwater and end up with a guy from my home state of Texas, Lyndon Johnson. We knew him there as Landslide Lyndon, and we were just aghast. And we did some introspective thinking about where our career is going, where our life is going, and we figured it was time to get out of the big corporation, get out of the big city, and head west. And since Barry Goldwater came from Arizona, and Arizona at that time was wide open spaces and Republicans and conservative thinkers and Second Amendment folks, the right to bear arms and all those things, which is sort of where our mind went. We moved to Arizona. Struggled a few years finding a way to feed the family, but had an opportunity to put my engineering background to work and acquired a little company in the injection molding business and made a product for the off-road industry, and it kind of caught on, and 40 years later, here we are. The company grew, and like all little family operations and businesses, sometimes it outgrows itself, and it comes a time you get tired and decide it's time to move on, and we got there and moved on. The genesis of this idea was hatched on Wednesday, November the 4th, 1964, the day after the election. And we said that we see bad things in store for our country, and there were two phases. One, it was probably going to come unglued, get very ugly for a while, but there's so many good things and so much underlying good values that we figured that eventually they would float to the top and a better, stronger country would emerge. All you had to do was figure out how to survive the onslaught. The idea came that what we ought to do is take all of our engineering capabilities that we had developed over the years and put together a vehicle that we would make available to the forward thinkers of the world who thought the way we did and seemed to think that at some point in time there may be a period when it gets really tough out there. The public would probably elect the public and the machines in the various jurisdictions like Mayor Daley, Chicago, and others that seem to control the elections would continue to put the cronies, for want of a better word, in, who would spin the country into a difficult position, and sooner or later the piper had to be paid and there'd be a correction, a massive correction. But being the ever optimist, it was our belief there was enough firm underlying capability and resources in this wonderful land that it would float to the top and would see it through. All you have to do is figure some way to survive while all the bad things are happening in the cities. And that was why we found our place out here in Salome. It's close enough to a major area that we can get in for medical, shopping, and all those handy things. About an hour-and-a-half drive, but far enough away that and we're protected by this big old friendly desert that's pretty hot and ends up being a buffer zone for us, and that's where we ended up. The thought occurred to me that there might be a whole lot of like thinkers in the major metropolitan areas, and Pacific California is one that comes, Southern California is the one that comes to mind. And we came up with the idea of providing those folks a vehicle that would help them get out of Dodge. We call it the good truck. That's G-O-O-D, get out of Dodge truck. And make that truck available to them so that they could get out of Southern California and get to a safe place like Arizona, Utah, Wyoming, somewhere anywhere that's away from the crowd. And that idea kind of grew and evolved over the years. And we got to thinking, well, so you give a guy a truck. If he doesn't have a place to go and he doesn't know how to do it, he hadn't thought about it, maybe he's not equipped to it, maybe we could help him out by having a place to go. So we have a place we thought about all the states, and Arizona has turned out that it's not the conservatives' freehold that it used to be. It's becoming, I'm sorry to say, more politically left and liberal, sad to say. But there is one state that has so far resisted it, and that's Utah. And so if you're working in the big city in Burbank, California, and your backyard is about the size of a pickup truck, you don't have a lot of options. So the idea was that those folks in Burbank, or anywhere in Southern California, if we provided them a means to get out of there, it'd be a good start. So we came up with a black truck idea. And we got to thinking, well, wait a minute. You're going to need supplies, and so we enhanced that idea by adding a trailer on it so we can have some supplies. And so the next thought came to mind, well, where do you go? Well, you hand a guy a truck and a pair of keys and a bunch of freeze-dried meals and say, good luck. And again, if you spent your life in downtown California, you don't know where to go. So we help you out with that problem by suggesting that we think we have a place, we call it Shangri-La. And if you're interested, go on Google and Google Shangri-La. It'll tell you why we picked that name. That's another story. We'll leave that for you guys to look at if you're interested, but that's what we call it. So basically, what we do is we've designed a truck, or redesigned a truck based loosely on a Ford chassis and a Cummins diesel engine. And by the way, it's a 12-valve diesel. That says that the lifters and everything are mechanical. There's nothing that's EMP. It's an EMP-proof engine. Basically, you had to do a few things to the electrical system to make it EMP-proof, which we've done. But you start with a mechanical system that can't be disrupted by an EMP. And the idea is if you can jump in your truck and jump in your trailer, you can head for Shangri-La. But when you really think about it, you guys in Southern California have got another problem is, where do you keep the truck? And if you guess a little bit wrong on the time, well then, how do you get out of town with the freeways and everything, just absolute gridlock on the streets? How do you get out of there? So the plan has now evolved in the broadest aspect, a three-part plan that says this. First thing is we put together a truck. The truck, as I mentioned, has been re-engineered, redesigned, rebuilt from the ground up for reliability and dependability. And we basically, I have a pretty strong aviation background, both as a pilot and engineer. And we took all of the tricks that the FAA has learned over the years. If you're sitting at 6,000 feet in an airplane and sitting in a cloud and you can't see the ground, you dang well better know what you're doing, and depending on your equipment, you're in a world of hurt. So we took that philosophy. You begin with making the equipment reliable, and the FAA has evolved over the years a way of making airplanes where they just don't break. Nothing's perfect, but the accidents due to a mechanical failure or a system failure are very remote. It's usually pilot error and not a system failure. So we took the engineering concept that the FAA used to make airplanes safe and applied it to the truck. Started with a perfectly sound truck, first a good, consistent, bulletproof, rock-solid engine platform, the Cummins 12-valve diesel, and basically rebuilt the truck. We re-engineered its systems, its electrical system. We totally redesigned it and re-engineered it to where it looks like an airplane. As a matter of fact, when you look at a picture of it, it's an airplane panel. Those are panels that go in. It's built exactly with airplane instruments, with airplane techniques. It was built by the screen, and the painting was done by a company that does airplane panels, etc. I use our own machine and tooling ability to build a panel ourselves. We build it in-house. That way we get it just like we like it. So we got a truck that's reliable. We've got a place for you to go to, and we got a nice long trailer that sits behind it that's full of supplies. Now the truck is virtually finished. The truck is complete. Everything's a work in progress. You can always think of something, gee, I maybe better tweak this or we could do that. But fundamentally, I'll give the truck a 98% complete. It's done. The trailer that goes behind it is not built for a very good reason. We got to know who we're dealing with. Are we dealing with a couple? Are we dealing with 3 or 4 kids, an individual? And we have to basically tailor the trailer to the customer's needs. And the trailer will be built after we know who the customer is and we know who they are and what their needs are. We'll build the trailer to match their needs. And the place in Utah remains classified. Nobody gets to know where that is until you're definitely in the club. So the plan is, if you feel like that what you're hearing makes sense and it resonates with you, we need to talk. So in summary, the plan looks something like this. If we strike a bargain, we start building a truck. The truck is pretty much cut and dried. It doesn't need much customization. It's been thought out. But we look at what your needs are and we build a trailer around your family or your whoever you are and what your needs are. And then of course the ultimate is the place in Utah we go to. Now, here's the best for the last. We're suggesting that you leave your truck right here in Arizona. If you live in Southern California, finding a place to park it, it's a big old truck with a big old trailer, and that alone is a problem. And if you find a place to park it in an RV place or a garage or a warehouse somewhere, how do you know the door won't be locked when you need it in worst case? So we're saying leave the truck here where it's secure. And you folks that are in Southern California, we're suggesting you buy a scruffy, nondescript used Toyota pickup that blends right in and put 2 motor scooters in the back. Learn to ride them. Learn where you're reasonably comfortable on the motor scooter. If the balloon goes up and you decide it's time to run for the hills, try to get here. If you move quick enough and you're fast enough, you get out of Southern California, you can get across the bridge at Blythe, you're practically home. You're only an hour from our place on I-10. When you cross into Arizona on I-10 in Blythe, you're about an hour from Siloam. So you get to Siloam. In the event, you guys, whoever you are out there, if you get trapped, we've got a card up our sleeve to get you out of there. We have using my aviation background, I owned a 206 Cessna for a while, and that's the ultimate bush airplane. It lands short, it's got a lot of room, a lot of horsepower, it's a big old lovable, cuddly truck, an aerial truck. And our commitment is that if a person becomes one of our, I hate to use the word customer, client sounds kind of fancy, but friend maybe, whatever you are, pick your own name for who you are. But if we strike a bargain and you like our program, then we talk about Shangri-La, and you got to get here. So we're saying try to get here if you can, but if you can't, use your pickup or your motor scooters, and there is an area not far from the LA area. It's highly classified where it is. I mean, we're not going to talk about what we do there, but it should be reachable from the LA area. And it's a piece of desert that's about 5 miles north-south and 10 miles east-west. Got a lot of dirt roads on it, not a lot of people there. Perfect place for a bush plane to land and get in and get out. I got around 10,000 hours myself, so I've kind of been there, done that in airplanes. I actually owned a 206 for a while, and it's the ideal airplane. Our commitment to you is we'll have a 206 available. And oh, by the way, I forgot, I'm also a general class ham operator, so we can set up communication so that in the event the world comes tumbling down and the cell towers go down, we can communicate. Oh, by the way. So you find a way to communicate to us. We set a time that you're at the pickup point. You arrive at the pickup point. A 206 Cessna rolls to a stop at the precise. You hack your watches, and at the precise second, he shows up. You jump out of your car, you open the back door of the airplane, throw wife, kids, cats, dogs, whatever you got with you in the back of the airplane. The pilot applies power and he's gone. He's on the ground 10 seconds, right out of James Bond. But it worked. It worked. And we've got that card up our sleeve to get you out of California, get you here. Once you get to Arizona, we'll tell you this much. Shangri-La, I may have said this, if I did before, I forgot. But it's in Utah. And that's as politically a stable state as we could find. The summers are a little bit hot, but you can sleep on the roof of the truck and under the stars, you know, air mattress and a tent. If it really gets kind of nasty cold and windy in the winter, and they can have some kind of nippy nights, move into the trailer and you'll have a nice warm bunk. And backup power, diesel fuel out the yin-yang, so you're in good shape, and fuel the food to last you for a year. And you're now prepared to sit it out and just hunker down. As we used to. I grew up in East Texas, and that was a really good expression. You just hunker down. So that's what you guys got to do. You got to go to Shangri-La and hunker down. Go back to Shangri-La. Look that up. It was I'll give you a hint. For you old folks, back in World War II, right after the Pearl Harbor disaster, President Roosevelt wanted to strike back. And he made a deal with a guy named Jimmy Doolittle, an old aviation guy. And Jimmy figured that he could get B-25s off a carrier deck, and they would sneak the carrier up as close to Japan as they could. And the Japanese were told that no bomb will ever fall on Tokyo. 60 days afterwards, Jimmy Doolittle and President Roosevelt figured a way to get B-25s off of a carrier deck and send the Japanese a wake-up call. They've since become our friends, and that group of people, I'm not derogatory of the Japanese nation, the Japanese people are wonderful friends and a great ally. But like many of us, they fell in the wrong hands. And oh, by the way, watch what's going on politically. We're about to fall in the wrong hands. It's scary how close we may be to falling in the wrong hands. So I have great faith in this country and the people in it and the patriots. And eventually they'll prevail. But dang, it could get ugly for a while. So if the plan is that this gives you a way to go. Shangri-La, I forgot to tell you. President Roosevelt, when he was questioned on how did those airplanes get to Japan, they couldn't figure it out. Nobody could figure out taking a bomber off of a carrier. It just couldn't be done. But Jimmy Doolittle was just a marvelous airplane guy, and he figured out how to do it. And he said it came from a base recently acquired territory in Shangri-La. Well, that's a mythical kingdom somewhere or another. That's how he dodged it. So I kind of like the concept. It has historical significance. It touches on the base of a great American and a man who actually touched my life, Jim Doolittle. It shows what America in the days of, dang it, let's just get her done. And that's where I cut my teeth. That's where I grew up. That's what this project is. It's for the get her done folks that want to just figure some way to go hunker down, let the crap roll by you, and then all the wonderful properties of this country and all the wonderful things we got will be unleashed. And I'm just a perpetual optimist that believes it'll come back stronger than before. But in a small way, we're saying to those people who have the mindset and the means, it's relatively modest in the scheme of things. The means are not, you can spend more on a Lexus than I'm asking for the truck, you know. And it's not for your average poor guy that's trying to figure out how to make a buck and make ends meet. He can't afford it. But it's also not for the ultra rich, because those guys, you read about Bezos and the guy that runs whatever that company is he runs. It's just crazy. And so, but there's a little slice out there of guys that are thinkers and patriots, and those are the guys we're talking to. We're saying, guys, we just may have an answer for you. Well, it's been a pleasure. Dick Goodman here. Somewhere down at the bottom of the page somewhere I'll have a website and how to reach me, and I'd like to talk to you. Have a nice day.